Here's a quick thanks to our sponsors. MoFo, male optimization formula with organs to boost testosterone. ButcherBox, convenient, affordable, free delivery of the highest quality meat, poultry, and seafood. Bioptimizers, performance supplements like magnesium, probiotics, and more. Beauty Counter, a complete line of safer skincare and cosmetic products. B-Rad grass-fed whey protein isolate super fuel, the ultimate performance recovery and longevity drink, and Brad's macadamia masterpiece, mind-blowing nut butter blend. And check out the favorites link at bradkearns.com for my personal selection of favorite products for health, fitness, and peak performance, and great discounts for listeners. And here we go with the show.
Here is the first step toward changing your life. Form the intention and make the commitment. You got to want it. Some people need a while to get going for whatever reason. Sometimes we blame it on our chronotypes. I generally blame it on the behavior patterns of the previous evening and our overall lifestyle patterns. But we all have to recognize that it requires a sufficient amount of warm-up to do anything of significance first thing in the morning.
It's time to talk about another great supplement from Bioptimizers. Now, we've all heard about the awesome benefits of probiotics and probiotic-rich foods for digestive health and gut health, but probiotics are also beneficial for mental clarity and focus and overall energy levels. Yes, the gut-brain connection is real, people, and many experts agree that this is the most exciting emerging field of medicine today. Along with making my own kombucha and eating probiotic-rich foods, I take the fantastic supplement from Bioptimizers called P3OM. P3OM is a patented probiotic strain that increases mental clarity and focus and overall energy throughout the day. And unlike coffee, it doesn't keep you up at night. It actually improves your sleep and recovery so you can kick ass again the next day. And energy isn't the only benefit that P3OM offers. P3OM can enhance weight loss and help you gain lean muscle. It's all about getting your digestive system more efficient at processing nutrients from your food. P3OM is called the, quote, Navy SEAL by researchers due to its ability to kill bad bacteria. You can even see a video of P3OM breaking down food at this link, p3om.com/Brad. And at that same link, p3om.com/Brad, you can get 10% off by typing in the coupon Brad or shopping from that page. And if you order anything from Bioptimizers and it's not everything that you hoped for, you have their best-in-class guarantee or your money back. Just visit p3om.com/Brad to get the 10% discount, p3om.com/Brad, and try this wonderful supplement. Hey listeners, I would love to talk to you in detail about what has become my most passionate and favorite healthy living topic, and that is getting started on a life-changing morning exercise routine. And of course, you've heard me talk about the online course that's been long in development and is now here for you to enjoy. I strongly urge you to take part, take a vote in favor of yourself and your healthy living and a healthy, balanced lifestyle, more focus, discipline, resilience against stress and distraction that you face throughout these busy, crazy days that we live. And it starts with hitting the deck and getting some work done. The online course is wonderful. It takes you through everything that I've built over the past 5 years on my streak of doing this every single day and modifying it, testing it, refining it, and then sharing it with you. And it's totally scalable to whatever time you have to devote, whatever fitness level you're at, and also your particular fitness, injury prevention, athletic goals. Now, let's just get right into it with a discussion of the benefits and why it's been such a big deal in my life and why I want to convince you that this is a absolutely non-negotiable element of living healthy, balanced life. In my own case, of course, fitness is not a weak area for me. That might be over into the realm of distractibility, managing finances, other areas where I could put a needs to improve checkpoint in my list. But of course, I've been a lifelong athlete and health and fitness has been a centerpiece. However, I have not really had a consistency at the baseline that I would like. In other words, my fitness routine has always been intuitive and varied. Even back when I was a full-time athlete, some days were pretty grinding. We're out there for 7-hour bike ride, 30-minute swim, from sun up to sundown, you're pretty busy training. Other days were recovery days where I would sleep in, maybe head over to the pool, get a massage, quite a bit less stressful of an exercise experience. But into my adult life, beyond my career as an athlete, which basically was from ages 20 to 30, and then raising a family, having a busy work life, commuting, traveling, those kind of things. Lots of things got in the way of establishing and maintaining a healthy fitness baseline, and also a well-structured and prioritized day. I think we can all relate to this, where your intentions to work out and move your body and get fresh air or whatever it is get pushed aside by the digital experience or whatever else you can blame. And so over the decades, a lot of days were in my training diary where I was doing very little or just hitting out and jogging in a straight line with my dogs. And I talk about the revision of that experience on my YouTube video, Brad Kern's Jogging 2.0, where I mix in different things. So when I'm heading out for the normal everyday outing, it now has more flavor and variety. But layered on top of that was this idea back in early 2017, late 2016, I decided that my sprint workouts were so stressful to my body that they always took a disappointing amount of time to recover from. And so I'd come up the next day with really sore calves, tight hamstrings, hip flexors, fatigue in everyday life, recovering from what was a pretty challenging session. And I realized that I really didn't do anything to approximate the challenge of my most difficult workouts in day-to-day fitness experience. So it was either jogging, going to the gym, lifting weights for the upper body, whatever, and then I'd go out there and blast the sprint workout maybe once a week, more like 3 times a month, because it was just so difficult to recover from and summon up the energy and have the right day to do it. And so I thought, hey, what if I established a higher fitness baseline, just a starting point from which I launched all workouts, especially the high-intensity sprint workouts. So that would be making my core, my hamstrings, my hip flexors, my glutes a little more resilient, so that it was time to challenge them, challenge the body. It wouldn't be such a beat-up experience, right? And so that's when I started inventing these mixture of stretching, strengthening, yoga, a variety of activities that comprise my morning routine. And I started to do it at very baseline level at first. It was a pretty low intensity 12-minute experience. I actually have the original version on YouTube, published in 2017. And then I have a 2020 version that showed the escalation of the degree of difficulty and the sophistication of the workout. And then, of course, in the online course, we're going to get into extreme detail and describe every exercise and help you custom design a routine for yourself. But I think the elevation of my basic fitness platform was a true breakthrough, because then I was able to absorb and benefit from my proper training sessions, being that I had specific athletic goals and so forth. So that was a big thumbs up. But for the everyday person that maybe isn't a serious athlete, I'm still going to contend that this is an extremely important element of your everyday life and your fitness goals, because no matter what you do after the morning routine, you still knock it out every single day. And it builds that focus, that discipline, that resilience against distraction, and kind of gives you a safeguard against life getting too busy and getting away from you, such that you have these days characterized by inactivity. And that's something that we're all battling against, even the fittest among us, even the CrossFit devotee or the Ironman triathlete who's training 7, 12, 14, 17 hours a week, some of these crazy training regimens. But guess what? The week has 168 hours, and a lot of those folks, particularly those folks, might be sitting around for long periods outside of those formal and devoted discipline workouts. Katie Bowman, the biomechanist, nutritious movement is her brand, and her movement itself, just getting people into a more varied and active daily life. She calls it the lazy athlete mentality, whereby you give yourself a hall pass against basic activity because you do these impressive workouts. And we have so much science and research now. Some of it is couched under the active couch potato syndrome concept. So much science is showing that a lack of daily activity and prolonged periods of stillness are extremely health destructive, so much so that the endeavor to just move more in everyday life might rank up there as high or higher than adhering to a devoted formal workout regimen. Okay, so that's my brief argument for the importance of just waking up right away, hitting the deck, and getting some kind of work done. And again, I told you about my very gradual and graceful foray into this new life commitment, and I want to encourage you to do the same. And I'm not kidding when I say, if you only have 5 minutes to devote, okay, you have a chunk of time to devote to listen to this show, but going forward, if you only have 5 minutes a day, it will be tremendously beneficial to knock out those 5 minutes every single day. And it's highly predictable that you will build upon that and get more devoted and more interested in increasing the level of sophistication and intensity over time. So here is the first step toward changing your life. Form the intention and make the commitment. You got to want it. You got to be willing to change your life for the better and actually care about it. It's important to acknowledge the incredibly destructive effects of hyperconnectivity. The study that I mention often, conducted by a prominent global market research firm called International Data Corporation, revealed that 79% of Americans check their smartphones within 15 minutes of awakening, and that 46% of that 79%, so half of the 80% of people that are addicted to the phone in the morning, 46% check them before getting out of bed, implying that they are able to reach their phone from bed. And we've heard from EMF experts about the destructive effects of EMF, especially at night when we need to get into that parasympathetic state. So a quick lifestyle checkpoint would be, please charge your phone outside of arm's reach, ideally in another room, unless you're on the super emergency category, like my sister, Dr. Kate, delivering babies in the middle of the night. She has a free pass to have that phone right near within loud alarm sound in the case that she's needed. But for most of us, come on, who are we kidding here? So charge your phone in the hall, or at least charge it across the room. And then you'll have a better chance of escaping that disturbing statistic. Why is it so disturbing? Because when you engage with a device as soon as you wake up, you actually lock your brain into the reactive, short attention span, dopamine-craving, instant gratification mode. And in doing so, you compromise your capacity to engage in more desirable executive functions in the morning, such as strategically planning your day, such as writing into your gratitude journal, reflecting, welcoming the day in a calm state of mind rather than using your thumb to see what's going on and all the crazy stuff that's happening. And okay, we talk about all the destructive effects of being addicted to the news cycle and the fear mongering and all that. But even if it's good stuff, right? Even if it's sports highlights, you're still in this dopamine craving reactive mode rather than that high level executive function mode, which is really strong in the morning if you allow it to come out and play. Psychiatrist Nikole Benders-Hadi believes that when you immediately reach for your phone, quote, the information overload that hits you before you're fully awake interferes with your ability to prioritize tasks, and you are more likely to increase stress and feel overwhelmed. End quote. There is so much support for this and other people echoing in. Julie Morgenstern, who wrote the book, Never Check Your Email in the Morning. Hey, that's a nice title. She says when you check your email first thing in the morning, quote, you'll never recover. Explaining that it's hard to go from your transactional, shallow part of your brain, the frontal cortex, to the other parts of your brain where strategy happens and relationships happen. It's easier to start in the deep recesses of your brain and then move into the shallow parts. Okay, so that's sufficient fodder for you to form this intention and make a commitment to have a different looking day than just thumbing through your phone. And I know that it's not always easy to pop out of bed bright and shiny with a smile and high energy. Some people need a while to get going for whatever reason. Sometimes we blame it on our chronotypes. I generally blame it on the behavior patterns of the previous evening and our overall lifestyle pattern of introducing a lot of artificial light and digital stimulation after dark. We'd also put a vote in there for diet, mindset, stress management techniques, whatever it is that's causing you to feel a little groggy in the morning and need a while to wake up. Guess what? There's nothing better than hitting the deck and starting into some gentle exercises. It's actually better than caffeine because the basic gentle activity starting the day will blunt your adenosine, and that's the neurotransmitter that promotes sleepiness and builds and builds and builds throughout the day. That's exactly how caffeine works, is it blunts adenosine, so it allows you. Caffeine's not really a direct stimulant. What it is blunting adenosine to allow you to naturally, well, not naturally because you're drinking the caffeine, but allow you to feel alert and energized. Do you get the difference there? Okay, so caffeine blunts adenosine, and then you feel alert and energized, but so does exercise. At the same time, exercise also prompts a natural and desirable spike in cortisol that we want to see in the morning so that we wake up feeling alert and energized. And I can tell you, at age 57, I would contend that I'm not quite jumping out of bed maybe like I did in earlier decades. A lot of times it takes me a little bit to get going, but guess where that little bit occurs? It occurs on the mat while I'm moving my legs, and it never, ever fails. Even if I really do feel like crap, don't feel like doing anything, would rather stay in bed. And again, sometimes I do stay in bed for an extra 30 minutes or an hour, especially if I'm asleep. I don't wake up with an alarm. And so I have that opportunity, which is great. And all of us will do the best we can on that level. But failing that, when you're up and it's time to get up, there's nothing better than hitting the deck and getting that natural rise in cortisol and the blunting of adenosine, whereby, why did I say it's better than caffeine? Caffeine does the latter, but it also interferes with that natural spike in cortisol. So much so that Dr. Andrew Huberman Lab Podcast, a great resource for scientific-based contentions about diet, exercise, and healthy living, suggests that you wait, I think he said 2 hours, maybe 1 hour, you wait 1 to 2 hours before having your cup of coffee so that the natural hormonal processes can take effect, and then you can get that desired boost from coffee without interfering with the stuff that sunlight and especially gentle movement is designed to do. Your body's craving that type of natural awakening. Okay, so now this brings us to step 2, which is the logistics. And the first thing I want to ask you straight up, answer me honestly, how much time can you devote every day? Again, I started with 12 minutes. I don't think that was too much to ask. I can reference other times in my life with busy school mornings and the desire not to compromise my sleep and be a military badass and get up at 4:30 in the morning and do all these wonderful things and check the boxes, post on social media and make you feel inferior because you can't get up so early. I strongly recommend against that type of bulldozer strategy. You know why? Because we want this to become a habit that does not require motivation or willpower. We want it to be in the same category as brushing your teeth. Therefore, if you are forcing yourself to do this morning routine by moving that alarm clock back, and you're going to wake up, hear that alarm, cultivate a negative attitude immediately, that is no good. And at this point, with my commitment being quite extensive, I'll say from my own perspective, 40 minutes is a big chunk to bite off every single day, especially when I might not totally feel like it because I'm recovering from hard training prior to it, or traveling, or having a super busy morning. Again, I don't think about it. I just get it done. I don't judge it to be wonderful nor super annoying. And so I'm kind of past all that. I'm past deciding how motivated I am, and I just do it. And I want you to make that jump with me. Therefore, it has to be an appropriate duration so that it's no trouble. And if that's 5 minutes right now, that's fine. Hey, how about we bargain and say that you'll give 12 minutes to yourself and your well-being and your brain function and your physical fitness first thing in the morning. So whatever it is, to be easy, inviting, and sustainable. And here's the key, and this is backed up by when I last checked, the #1 best-selling book on Amazon in the world, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Wonderful book. I highly recommend it. And one of his huge takeaway points was that you want to start your habits as small as possible. And he even makes the ridiculous example of making the commitment to floss one tooth if you're not a good tooth flosser. So instead of saying, going to the dentist, getting scolded, coming home with your free container of floss and thinking, I really got to do it. I really should do it. I really got to get motivated. Instead, make it a little game and say, hey, can you floss one tooth a day, please? Is that possible? Of course it's possible. Pull the string, floss a tooth, go out about with your busy day that's so busy that you can't floss your teeth in the first place. But that is a literal and emphatic example from one of the world's leading experts. And so the same thing goes with the morning routine. And when you make that commitment, that's the big part, right? So if you're going to say 5 minutes or you're going to say 12 minutes, make it happen without fail every single day, and that will make it meaningful to you. This is just my personal recommendation, but if you're thinking of, hey, maybe it would be better for me to take weekends off because I really like to chill out on the weekend. I don't want to be on my to-do list, all those kind of things where you're negotiating with yourself. I guess it's okay. But for me, maybe I'm in that black and white category, like many of you, where you can't have just a few Pringles. You're going to bury the whole box. Or you can't have pints of Ben and Jerry's in your house because the pint will be emptied, and so forth. So maybe there's some personality aspects here that you're going to figure out a commitment that works best for you. But I strongly, strongly recommend a low enough bar to climb over every single day. And so start small. Easy, inviting, sustainable. If you struggle or you come back to this show in 6 months' time and you're not locked in, let's go and reflect on a different approach. And was it easy, inviting, and sustainable enough? And the answer is no if you haven't succeeded. And so you just rewind a little bit and maybe reset from your initial 12-minute commitment because that sounded so simple. And then you realized over time that you missed on Monday, and then on the next Friday you missed, and then on Thursday a phone call came in, you talked for 2 hours in the morning, you never got it done, that kind of thing. And I will say that in my 5+ years streak, there have been a couple handfuls of days where I had to do some makeup work. In other words, when the flight leaves at 6:40 a.m. or what have you, nothing happens. Again, I'm not setting my alarm into dark 30 just to get this done. That defeats the purpose. So in my personal example, I'd say 1 out of every 100 days with some sort of modification of a makeup situation in the afternoon. Other times, due to, let's say, a track meet or some huge athletic opportunity, I did an abbreviated version. And then what I do to myself to punish is I'll double up in the ensuing days. And I'll tell you what, as far as doing the self-negotiations and trying to get some back doors for yourself, let me tell you how difficult it is to double up when you miss a few elements of the routine. And so it kind of keeps you focused and devoted and committed to doing the whole thing every single day. Okay, so start as small as possible. Atomic Habits, James Clear, and he offers up this concept of the 2-minute rule for a true, powerful habit to start on that easy, inviting, and sustainable category. Make it a 2-minute habit. And why is this so important? Or why is this so effective? Because, quote, a habit must be established before it can be improved. A habit must be established before it can be improved. First deep breath of the show. Let that sink in, people. Isn't that awesome? All right. So that was step 2, is to figure out the logistics, put that time commitment. And of course, in this category would be find an appropriate environment and the whatever implements you need. And I purposely tried to be super low tech, super low budget. And really, you don't need anything except perhaps a padded mat or an area to do some groundwork, because I emphasize the work on the floor, especially out of the gate. And then the entire sum of the other tools that I show on my morning routine. We're talking like an ab roller for $15. We're talking mini bands for what, $5 each, or a pack of 5 for $25. And I have that 2.5-inch soft pad, exercise pad, to increase the degree of difficulty of balancing moves. And those are all optionals. But, you know, if you just have a few tidbits that fit into travel luggage easily, you're good to go, at least on my routine. And certainly that how it contributes to making it easy, sustainable, and convenient if you happen to be doing things in different areas or traveling a lot. That brings us to step 3, which is build the habit, get to work. How do we do it? We wake up in the morning and we hit the deck, and we gain that heightened awareness of how we live our lives, because we're either going to do it or we're not going to do it. And if something gets in the way after 30 days and you've only done 17 or whatever, despite your initial commitment, you are exposing yourself as a victim of circumstance in hectic, high-stress modern life. And nothing is more important than taking care of yourself and honoring your commitments and building habits rather than being a victim, right? Eliud Kipchoge, the greatest long-distance runner of all time, the marathon legend that ran the 1 hour and 59-minute marathon, one of his great quotes. He's a super quotable, amazing African runner that's like a sage. He's a philosopher of modern times. And if you look him up on the internet, you can find all kinds of great insights from this amazing runner. And he says, only the disciplined ones are free in life. Otherwise, you become a slave to your moods and your passions. Yeah, I mean, that's some serious shit. That's all I can comment there. And boy, it's a real battle today, I think, with the hyperconnectivity and the distractibility, but it's worth fighting this battle to not become a slave to your moods and your passions. And that is why I'm going to argue that first thing in the morning is the absolute best time, because that shows that you're truly in control, and it's almost non-negotiable. But if you have a really, really strong case, okay, I'm going to be open to it. Lay it on me, right? Oh, I have to get the triplets, the quadruplets off to preschool by 7:30 a.m. And then my house is quiet for hours on end. So I intend to do it after the morning rush. Okay, fine. As long as it's locked into place and it's fixed and it's strong and it's not there's no wiggle room where I'll get it done after I send my morning emails out, right? You can see where this becomes a slippery slope. Whereas waking up and not reaching for your phone is not a slippery slope. Okay. You may have heard of Jim Kwik, the brain training expert, best-selling author, podcast host, and guy that I made fun of for having a popular YouTube video with 7.5 million views about his morning routine, which contained, count them, 17 steps. And I was like, okay, come on, man. What is this? How is this relevant to the person that's fighting the daily battle? But anyway, he also has tremendous amount of great information and helpful tidbits to get you focused and get the most out of your brain. And he gives 3 attributes to to building a winning habit. And so number 1, as I've already talked about at length, is to go all in. And you have to deeply believe that this will improve your life, this endeavor that you're trying to get into habit. So flossing that one tooth, right, is going to lead to flossing a bunch of teeth and not having to do root canals over the next 5, 10, 20 years. Okay, number 2, this is again, Quick's list of 3 attributes for a winning habit is to find the fun factor. So yes, indeed, we are allowed to partake in instant gratification in order to keep us in alignment on our long-term goals. And so if you are not enjoying the experience when you're done and you don't feel better, let's figure that out and let's design a different morning routine. And so I contend that I'm past that point of judging my routine as super awesome, exciting, or drudgery, right? So I don't think about it in either of those terms. I just do it. But I will tell you how I feel afterward, and that is always, invariably, much, much better than before I started. So I think that's kind of the essence that I want to share with you there. And the fun factor is, once you get into it, once you get going, you're moving your body, you're physical, you're outdoors, you're more at peace than if you're scrolling through your phone. And you also have this sense of satisfaction that you're someone who knows how to set and achieve goals, build healthy winning habits, and get fitter. And as I sprinkle in the many benefits, one of them is I've become a much fitter person. I believe it really helped me with my fat reduction goals that I talk about on different shows. I mean, how can it not? I just kind of set the tone for a lean, healthy, fit body and healthy, fit lifestyle, because every day I'm out there getting work done instead of blank, having another cup of coffee or doing the crossword or frittering around and wasting time holding my device. Okay, so the fun factor would be important, that it's inherently fun and that you enjoy it. Maybe we can talk to you after rather than right before, and you'll have a thumbs up that it does have that necessary fun factor. And then the third attribute is repetition endurance, that so many experts talk about over and over, and pound that into your head, that repetition and endurance creates a habit. Motivation is highly overrated. Just commit to it and then forget about it. It's on the list. Don't worry about it. Just get it done. Don't ask yourself, am I in the mood today? This is especially relevant, I think, when I talk about cold exposure and the habit of therapeutic cold exposure. This is where that little voice pops up every single day, especially when I amassed a streak of a few years of jumping in the chest freezer or the cold lake every single day. Now I'm going to admit that is not part of my daily habit. It's more like sprinkled in a few times a week. Again, another recent Huberman Lab podcast entirely devoted to cold exposure was talking about research where if you accumulate 11 minutes a week total, you're going to get all these great benefits of cold thermogenesis, and you can sprinkle those in however you like. But anyway, the reason it's not locked into habit anymore is I prioritize the exercise routine, and I don't want to tip over that balance point to the extent that my morning commitment becomes a little bit of a stress and a drudgery and an inconvenience, because now as the clock's ticking, I too want to get down to matters of business and obligations, responsibilities, appointments, right? So if I was extending out and saying, here's what I do my 40-minute morning exercise routine, then I go in the cold plunge, then I go in the sauna, then I'm going to be in the gym quick category. Of course, there are 7.5 million views of his morning routine video. You want to hear the steps that he presents? Okay. Number one is to recall your dreams. Then you make your bed, which is so important for habit forming. Okay. You've heard that. There was a best-selling book. It was on the bestseller list for a long time called Make Your Bed, from a former general, talking about how these little things go a long way. And if you're a bed-making person, that means you're going to be focused and disciplined all the day. I kind of laugh, and it's hard for me to buy into that one. I think the exercise is a way more interesting and important thing to talk about than whether or not you make your bed. And maybe it means nothing if you're a person that leaves the bed undone. I get the point. It's a representation. It's a symbol of being focused, disciplined, and cleaning up after yourself and so forth. But guess what? There's research from Europe that shows that many cultures, it's routine to open the bed covers and leave them open throughout the day. And the research shows this actually allows microbes to escape, and otherwise they become trapped inside your sheets to the point that your bed becomes in some some circumstance unsanitary. Isn't that wild? So what if the widespread recommendation was changed over to make sure you don't make your bed every morning, and then you're escalating your health accordingly. Okay. Anyway, so Jim Quick, recall your dreams first thing, then make your bed. Drink some water in the morning, of course, because you're dehydrated overnight. Take a probiotic. Do some breathing exercises to oxygenate the body. Do an early morning meditation session for just 20 minutes. That's it. Do some gentle exercises like jumping jacks. Take a cold shower, shave, brush, do personal hygiene. Then you make a special tea that has MCT oil in it to get your brain going on high cylinders. Then you engage in some journal exercises. Then you create 2 lists, a to-do list for the day and a to-feel list for the day. And note that handwriting is better than typing. Then you read for 20 to 30 minutes. Then you make a brain power smoothie that has a bunch of colorful fruit and vegetables in it. Then you go online and do some brain training exercises at, guess what? That's right, his website. And this will help jumpstart your brain. And then finally, you start your day. That's the second sigh of the show. And don't get me wrong, I'm having fun here and making light of this. But of course, all this stuff is pretty cool if you have the time. And let's see, what does that add up to? He had a meditation in there for 20 minutes. He had reading for 20 minutes. So if this is an hour, hour and a half, hey, this guy's a peak performer. And if you can't do it, you don't have that type of time commitment available, that's fine. Maybe someday, it's worth thinking about. And in fact, even in my case, I bang out this 40-minute routine, and then usually I jump into some sort of obligation, responsibility, appointment. But on the days when I'm doing those formal and challenging workouts, I might head straight to the track after the morning routine. And then the hours are adding up to where I all of a sudden shake my head and it's 10 o'clock and all I've done is fitness-related activities. But of course, I can't do that every single day. And that's the point, is that you have a healthy foundation and then you can go out and kick some butt on whatever day that comes up to and whatever's happening in your life. Okay, this is another tidbit called 4 Stages of Habit Change. I think it's James Clear. Anyway, the first one is to make it obvious. The second one is to make it attractive. The third one is to make it easy. And the fourth one is to make it satisfying. So obvious, the first step means that you're sort of like Dude Spellings, my podcast guest, where he talked about putting his hexagonal deadlift bar in the door frame. So when he leaves his office, he has to step through a hex bar to get out. And that helps him build the habit of doing 1 set of deadlifts every time he exits his office. So that's the obvious part. For me, I mentioned that I don't reach for the phone like 79% of Americans, but I too need to stay in communication or like to stay in communication, see what's going on with my day ahead. And so guess what? If I'm not going to reach for that phone and I got to do something before that, that would be my morning routine. That's pretty obvious. Then I get to reach for my phone. I also stack this with that important obligation to drink water first thing in the morning. And I purposely delay that until I'm done with the routine. It might be nicer to hydrate before I start the routine, but I sort of think now that my hydration session, which is I do it pretty much every time I'm done, is sort of a reward. It's a celebration. Then I get to go make my homemade kombucha with sparkling water and maybe make my smoothie at the same time. So anyway, I'm going in and I'm taking care of those matters, but they don't happen until the routine is over. Okay, so that was the number one, make it obvious, make it a passageway to the other things that you want or have to do. Making it attractive, for me, I realized that no matter how I feel at the start, I feel better afterwards. So that's the attractiveness, is like I know hitting the deck is going to naturally energize me and put me in a better state of mind and mood and physical energy than beforehand. So it's kind of like the coffee pot is attractive to many people when they wake up. And so in my case, the wheel, the yoga wheel, that extremely difficult yoga move where you're making a reverse, you're arching your body like the St. Louis Arch. And that comes early on in my routine. It's really tough. And when I finish the wheel, when I lower down from that difficult position that I hold for about a minute, that feels like a cup of coffee to me, because that's when I become alert and energized, because it's finally something that has a pretty challenging degree of difficulty where, okay, now I'm awake. All right. So then number 3, making it easy. That's starting with that small time commitment. And then finally, the number 4, satisfying, is how good you feel after doing a nice morning session. Let's hear from Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning. Quote, "How you wake up each day and your morning routine, or lack thereof, dramatically affects your levels of success in every single area of your life. Focused, productive, successful mornings generate focused, productive, successful days, which inevitably create a successful life, in the same way that unfocused, unproductive, and mediocre mornings generate unfocused, unproductive, and mediocre days, and ultimately a mediocre quality of life. By simply changing the way you wake up in the morning, you can transform any area of your life faster than you ever thought possible," end quote. And so, who doesn't want to wake up feeling refreshed, energized, and focused? And I'm just arguing that this is the best way to do it, and that it can happen quickly. You're talking about getting oxygen and blood circulating throughout the body. You're talking about aligning with your circadian rhythm, because I strongly recommend doing it outdoors, or at least somehow exposing yourself to direct sunlight. And when I say sunlight, I don't mean sunny. It can be cloudy, overcast day in Trondheim, Norway. And if you're getting exposure to direct light, even overcast, that is sufficient to calibrate these circadian hormones. So weather permitting, I'm outside, and weather not permitting, I'm still outside. And weather really gnarly, what I do is open up the slider, the kitchen slider, and I put the mat right at the edge and look out into the snow or whatever. And for a good portion of the year, my morning exercise routine doubles as a cold exposure session, because I'm not wearing anything but shorts. I'm purposely trying to be underdressed. And of course, I warm up sufficiently when I start the exercises. But a lot of times I notice when I'm finished, I get chilly as soon as I'm done, because I'm out there exercising and the weather's in the 30s, the 40s, maybe down. I think I've been at freezing several times. And then when it gets in the 20s, that's when I'm going through the slider. And so I'm probably in a warm house and then letting a bunch of cold air in. Hey, what can I say? It's important, and we'll work through that as a family. Okay, so the exposure to sunlight is imperative, and not through a window, because the window blocks those important ultraviolet rays that help with alignment of your circadian rhythm. Okay, what's going on there in the morning is natural light. Let's call it natural light rather than sunlight, thinking that it needs to be sunny. When natural light hits the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the famous SCN, that's like the control tower for the way our body responds to light and all kinds of hormonal functions. That's located, of course, in the hypothalamus, the control tower for all manner of human biological functions. So when natural light hits the SCN, it triggers a cascade of powerful hormonal responses to help you feel alert and energized instead of groggy. The SCN is a cluster of some 20,000 nerve cells located just below the brain. It's like the master clock of your circadian rhythm. And so all light-driven hormonal processes, like regulating body temperature, regulating sleep, regulating wakefulness, all this happens on a 24-hour cycle that is strongly, strongly tied to appropriate exposure to natural light, and lack of exposure to artificial light after the sun sets. That's what throws us off our circadian rhythm. In the morning, here's the cool stuff that's happening. As soon as that exposure to natural light happens, your body is suppressing melatonin. That's the sleepiness hormone that helps you get and stay asleep. And it's suppressing that in favor of serotonin. And so we want this rise of serotonin and cortisol in the morning. We talk about cortisol in a negative context a lot as the prominent or the preeminent fight or flight hormone, and we overproduce cortisol. We exhaust the fight or flight response, and we turn into burnout because of all these stressful elements of hectic modern life. But in the morning, cortisol spike gives you energy, alertness, and focus, and the serotonin also contributes to that. And then we also have that natural suppression of adenosine. It's typically it's actually a neuromodulator, not a neurotransmitter. And anyway, all this hormonal cocktail that occurs is going to be strongly facilitated and enhanced by direct exposure to natural light, not through a window. And then, of course, physical movement is going to enhance all these hormonal processes as well. Okay, we're still on step 3 of building the habit. We want to start slow. We got James Clear's 2-minute rule. And then I strongly recommend building a streak and celebrating it and making it important. Listen to how often I blab about it on my show, sharing with others and making myself accountable by talking about my streak. And so you build an appreciation, you celebrate your 30-day streak, your 60-day streak, your 1-year streak, whatever. And so it has great importance to you and it strengthens your commitment. And as far as building a habit, besides starting slow, the other extremely important element, I would say non-negotiable as well, is to repeat the exact same template every time. So you are doing the very same exercises in the same order every single day. And I'm going to talk about modifications and revisions over time, but this is the point, is to make this a template. Therefore, you do not have to tap into creativity, willpower, decision-making, or any of those cognitive processes that make habit forming and habit maintenance more difficult. And for me, I also contend that this has wonderful meditative aspects, because when I hit the deck, I immediately launch into a count of the sequences in my routine. So I'm doing 40 hamstring raises and leg kickouts to the right, then I'm doing 40 to the left, then I'm going into 20 forward frog legs, then I'm going into 20 reverse frog legs, then I'm going into 20 scissors, and then I'm going into 20 mountain climbers with toes pointed one direction, then 20 the other direction, and then 50 crossover crunches. And so during those 50 crossover crunches, I'm not wondering about, I'm going to have Captain Crunch for breakfast. All I'm doing is counting. And if I lose count, my penalty is I have to start that exercise over. And when will I lose count? If I'm getting distracted, for example, trying to listen to a podcast while I'm doing the morning routine, or daydreaming instead of staying focused on executing precise technique with each move and achieving the count and moving on to the next one. So it's all I'm thinking about, and I count it on the scoreboard as a meditation experience. Dave Rossi doesn't agree with me. He's been on the podcast 4 times talking about the wonderful benefits of a true meditation session where you're trying to empty your mind. And of course, my mind's not empty, but all it's doing is counting. And some other experts have said, yeah, that counts as meditation for sure, man. Count it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to count it. All right. So use your creativity, use your variation and all that fun stuff in your formal workout schedule, right? Show up at the gym, do something different. A good trainer will keep it fresh and interesting and exciting. Today, we're going to climb the courthouse steps. To the next session, we're going to go over to the park course at the park. And that's great to keep things fresh. And a lot of people think that you want more variation in your training to build a broader fitness base. Sometimes I disagree with that. And I feel like gaining mastery over certain go-to exercises is probably just as valuable, maybe more valuable than being a versatile person who goes into the gym and does something different every time. I think we get carried away with that concept, especially when you hear people that, if you just go in there and do the same number of sets and the same workouts, your body will hit a plateau and you won't improve. And so you're wasting your time if you just go in and do 4 sets of squats with 200 pounds. Guess what? It's still freaking impressive. So don't tell me that it's a waste of time to wake up every day and do a very impressive and challenging morning exercise sequence. That just makes no sense whatsoever. And even in the athletic realm where you're trying for peak performance, the great high jumper, Stefan Holm, who's the human who has jumped the furthest over his head of anyone ever, he won the Olympic gold medal in Athens 2004, and he's a man of about 5'10" and a half, and his best high jump is 7'10" and a half. So he jumped 2 feet over his head. Don't you think that should be an event instead of just putting the bar up high? Because a lot of tall people are dominating in the high jump, but let's see who can jump higher over one's own head. Yes, a new Olympic event I vote for. And that doesn't just come from me being on the shorter side of the high jump crowd. It just seems pretty cool. But anyway, Stefan Holm said, pick your 5 most favorite drills and master those and do those at every workout, rather than throwing in all kinds of new drills in the name of becoming a more versatile or competent elite athlete. I love that concept. Okay, so in this case, leave the creativity to your proper formal workouts. And this is just robot time because the main goal is to make it a habit. All right, so that was step 3. And before we go into step 4, just a quick recap. Step number 1 was form that intention and make the commitment. Step number 2 was figure out the logistics so you know what you're committing to. And then step number 3 is build it into habit, nice and slow and steady. Okay, and then step 4 would be pondering the idea, the concept of increasing your commitment, increasing your degree of difficulty over time. How are we going to do that? In a manner that's natural, intuitive, and sustainable. And don't answer to any outside forces here. You are the boss. You are the one that has to interpret whether this is going to work or not, whether it's a comfortable fit. You have to remember where that balance point is, where if you get too ambitious and aggressive, start with too big of a time commitment or escalate too quickly, you can easily dial it back and make sure it lands in that sweet spot at all times. And so that means that I want the degree of difficulty to be categorized or classified as medium to you, or medium to difficult. Some of the exercises might be considered that, but overall, you're kind of in that beautiful medium sweet spot zone where it's not a strenuous event that's going to potentially adversely impact the pattern of your formal workouts, nor is it going to turn into something that becomes unsustainable because the degree of difficulty is too high. So if I'm beat up after the day after a difficult sprinting or high jumping session, I can still get through my morning routine without any trouble, particularly because I've adapted to it over time. And yes, guess what's going to happen when you start accumulating this streak and getting really good at doing your template routine? The routine will become badass after a while. It'll become pretty impressive. I've had friends start in on mine and complaining that their stomach's burning after the first few sequences. I'm like, you're kidding. Mine feels fine. Guess what? That's because I do it every single freaking day. So if Brad from 2017 tried it in 2022, I too would be burning in the muscles that haven't been accustomed to it yet. So that's the cool part, is you build up, you become more adaptable, and you raise your baseline fitness level to apply to all other fitness and athletic goals. We talked about keeping the template the same. And so over time, if you want to add or subtract, you're perfectly welcome to try that. I just want you to try it in a very deliberate and thoughtful manner. So what I will actually do is audition a new exercise. I'll give it a shot. I'll throw it into the mix for a week or whatever and see if I like it and see if it's something that aligns really closely with my athletic goals. So if you see me doing my routine on the course and I'm doing the yoga wheel where I arch my back aggressively, that's particularly relevant for high jumpers, right? That's the position I want to exhibit when I go over the bar. That might not be something that's interesting to many people, and the degree of difficulty is high and a potential injury risk is high. So we might want to modify that into the typical bridge position where your shoulders are on the ground along with your feet and you're just forming a vertical line between your knees and your shoulders. And that's a great core and back exercise that's much safer. And so you get the picture about how to customize it. Oh my gosh, if you have recurring injuries or weak spots and your glutes continue to cause you problems at whatever sport or activity you're doing, you might want to increase your commitment to mini band work, which is so great for strengthening the glutes, which are often underutilized when we're sitting in a chair, and also when we exhibit imperfect technique in a variety of activities. The glutes kind of turn off. You may have heard that language, especially with Tiger Woods when he famously dropped out of a PGA Tour event. And the reason why is because his glutes weren't activating. And the press teased him mercilessly about that for weeks and months afterwards. Like, are you kidding? Jack Nicklaus never dropped out of a tournament because his glutes weren't activating. Ha, ha, ha. But this is the highest level of sophistication of athlete here. And the fact that his glutes weren't firing appropriately, he detected that and realized that was going to put more strain on his back, which has had 13 surgeries or something. So there you go. The joke's on the press for thinking that was a ridiculing that reason for dropping out of the tournament. Anyway, so you're going to pick and choose the exercises that are of most interest and applicability to you and your fitness goals and your injury concerns. And I provide you with a ton of suggestions so you don't have to do the hard work of starting from scratch. So when you're going through the course, I encourage you to watch everything, look at the descriptions, but pick and choose what seems relevant to you. And again, dial in that degree of difficulty to be medium to you, even as it gets more elaborate over time. But your fitness level is also escalating, your competency is escalating, so you can handle more and still have it be a medium. So let's kind of summarize the aspects of a well-designed, customized morning routine. Number one, that it's enjoyable to you. Number two, it's applicable to your athletic fitness and lifestyle goals, like injury concerns, weak spots, things like that. Number three, remember that we're starting first thing in the morning. This is not the ideal time for fitness, athletic, physical performance. Your hormones, your body temperature, your muscle flexibility and resiliency is going to be vastly better at other times of day. Perhaps you're a morning person and you like to morning exercise, but we all have to recognize that it requires a sufficient amount of warm-up to do anything of significance first thing in the morning, because you've been supine in bed and without blood and oxygen circulating for many, many hours. So especially with the morning routine, we want to start with something that is minimally challenging and extremely safe. That's why I have you on the ground laying on your back for the first sequence of exercises, because it puts your body, stabilizing your body weight in that very safe position. And again, my hamstring raises leg kickouts might be considered advanced degree of difficulty for many people if they have poor flexibility. So you're going to want to even modify that one. It's easy and a great wake-up call for me, but it might not be the same for you. And that's why in the online course, we have vastly easier routines that are more focused on, let's say, the yoga sun salute, for example, where you just reach for the sky and you sweep down. It's very gentle and it's within reach of anybody, even those who wake up stiff and sore and cranky in the morning. I also have another one called the gentle skeleton setting routine, which is one I learned long ago when I was an athlete. And it's a great way to kind of get your muscles, joints, connective tissue tuned up and ready for any other action. But you do this first thing in the morning, as soon as you get out of bed, as soon as you're supporting your body weight again. Sprinkling in another tidbit about the benefits. And I have some links in the online course in the PDF. I have a beautiful 50-page PDF talking about everything and describing everything in written format along with all the videos. But studies have discovered that morning movement improves your capacity for concentration, visual learning, and decision making. And there's also a link between morning exercise and being more inclined to move in general throughout the day, which is that huge health and fitness goal, obligation that we need to really focus on these days when we sit for prolonged periods of time. People who exercise in the morning are more physically active for the following 24 hours. And there's also research showing that participants slept better, study participants slept better after a 7 a.m. workout on the following night. Okay, so if you're struggling and it's not clicking for you, you've made a good effort, stuff's getting in the way. Maybe it's your mindset. Maybe it's the actual logistics and time and things coming up. here are a list of things to stop doing to get out of your own way and set yourself up for more success. And the first one would be to roll back the clock and look at your evening behavior patterns so that you can get a more restful night of sleep, perhaps more sleep, more quantity of sleep, and be able to wake up in the morning feeling a little more alert and energized than perhaps your baseline, where if you're really dragging ass, it's going to be hard to do anything in the morning except for reach for the phone. Definitely, I already discussed, don't be setting your alarm and trying to be a pre-dawn hero on this, because we want this thing to feel natural, comfortable, easy to sustain, not something that requires squeezing in to your super busy schedule, which can be further scrutinized with how you're spending your evening time when your discipline and your willpower has eroded and you stay up later than you thought, later than you planned, consume foods and engage in behaviors that aren't aligned with your peak performance goals the next day, but you're just too too fried to put a lid on it. So just getting to sleep earlier can really set you up for success in the morning. The next thing you can do is make it inconvenient to depart from your commitment. So I mentioned my rules of no phone and no water until I finish the morning routine. Now, whatever percentage of the time, 85% of the time, I truly do get out of bed and hit the deck, or immediately take my dog to the park to start the routine. So I wake up, grab the dog in the car, and really no delay. But other days, yes, indeed, I might putz around a little bit and do some household chore, maybe bust out the vacuum. Who knows what? I might get distracted, is what I'm saying, for a short period of time. And then guess what? I start running out of options, and the energy, the momentum builds up pretty soon, where I'm like, I better get my butt in gear. And I don't recommend even dabbling in those distraction exercises. But I'm just saying that it happens naturally to me sometimes, and I can easily correct course thanks to the momentum that I've built with a 5-year streak. It's very, very difficult to blow it off once you've built up the proper momentum. And so that brings us to the next bullet, is the rules and repercussions for screwing around and breaking your commitment. And I talked about the makeup exercises that I have to do on those days that I skip stuff. If I have an early morning airplane flight, you can look on my Instagram. I have pictures of me doing my mini bands in the gate in the waiting area in Hawaii, amidst all the looks from the other passengers. I don't care. If anyone wanted to come up and ask me what the heck you doing, I'd say I'm doing my morning routine. Sorry, don't mind me as I flip my legs around in the corner of the gate, just finding some spare carpet to get stuff done. Another item on the list here is to make sure, celebrate your success with the streak. And I don't know what that means to you. I'm not big on giving myself a permission to go buy myself an ice cream because I just made it for a year-long streak, or a new sweater for that matter. But whatever celebration means to you, you definitely want to give yourself a pat on the back and a smiley sticker, or perhaps a consumer purchase, whatever you want to do. It's really fantastic that you're breaking free from that 79% statistic of people who are addicted to instant stimulation in the morning. Another one on the bullet list, and I love when people talk about this, I've heard it on podcasts and books, the idea of injecting emotion into your quest to create winning habits. And so I make sure that I smile and punch the sky, or do a nice namaste gesture at the end of my morning routine every day. And I quietly celebrate another day is in the books. And I think you have to generate this excitement. And if you merely smile and jump up in the air, this will happen automatically. That's kind of Tony Robbins stuff, where he says, if you yell and scream and pound your chest, you're going to change your body chemistry instantly into that power position. He calls it priming, and he has even instructions of how to prime in the morning, where you take a bunch of breaths and stand tall with a powerful posture and say positive affirmations. So when you finish this routine, you can pick whatever mantra you like another day down, kicking butt, and here we go with the rest of the day. Whatever you want to do, inject a little emotion into the experience. Also important is to constantly, continually assess and refine. and feel free to subtract stuff that doesn't work, or maybe it's too strenuous. You're going to ease into it. You're going to back down from 20 to 10. And so you're optimizing the count of each thing that you're doing. Maybe you're adding in new stuff where you discovered that's an area of weakness or an area of potential improvement for your fitness athletic goals. And that's a really fun part, is to just continually to craft your routine. And so mine is written down in detail. Now it's in the ebook, but all along I've had it written and, very precisely talking about how many reverse frog legs I'm doing. I started at 15. I moved to 20 in whatever year. It's still at 20. But again, there's an end point to this escalation in the level of your commitment and the degree of difficulty, because at a certain point, it's going to be what you declare to be optimal. And I highly, highly doubt that anytime soon I'm going to be reporting that my wonderful, exciting morning routine has gone from 40 minutes, which is what the time clock says right now. When I actually timed it, it came out 39 minutes and 54 seconds. I predicted it was around 40 minutes. I was pretty close. But I highly doubt that I'm going to report back and say, hey, guess what? Now it's up to 60 minutes, and next year it'll be 75. Not a chance. Why? Because that will tip me over that beautiful balance point and into the realm of seemingly inconvenient, too difficult, potentially affecting my desire to go out there and adhere to my formal workout schedule and so forth. So we want to find that sweet spot. And at some point, you're going to rise up to a pretty badass routine, and that's going to be fine for years to come. Again, locking into consistency instead of constantly confusing and adding degree of difficulty, as many fitness experts argue that you must do, is a bunch of nonsense. I mean, come on. What about Jack LaLanne? He famously did his 1,000 push-ups and 500 pull-ups and 1,000 sit-ups every morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. or whatever his amazing fitness routine was. Do you really think that he needed to go up to 1,500 because 1,000 all of a sudden got too easy for him? Nonsense. And then finally on the bulleted list, use your morning routine as a piggyback, a launch pad for other desired habits. So, for example, maybe you're going to finish the morning routine and go right into dedicated peak cognitive task screen time for an hour because you've been struggling to set aside time and you get distracted by emails, whatever. So because you're in that powerful mindset and behavior pattern, you can leverage that into other areas of life. And I'm trying very hard to report that this has been a smashing success for me with my focus and disciplined use of time in front of the screen. And I can't say I'm all the way there yet, but I do feel like a more disciplined, focused person and more resilient against all other forms of stress and distraction, because at least I know what I have going for me is I'm reliable to myself every single morning. All right. So, hey, go out there and get started now. Participate in the course, get some good ideas, and remember that 2-minute rule. And if you want to start it with 2 minutes, that's great. Hey, then you can take it up to 5. You can celebrate your success going at 2 minutes for a month, and then go up to 5, celebrate some more success, and nice, gentle baby steps forward in the name of your health, focus, peak performance, progress. And I don't know, if you have a dog and you already have a morning routine of getting the dog out and walking around the block, why don't you take that opportunity to introduce some exercises along the way, or as soon as you arrive home, and go straight into the backyard and do a set of squats or do the sun salute as described in the course. I love visiting the park in Los Angeles where my mom takes her dog, and we go out there, and there's so many laudatory dog owners that are out there every single day making sure their dog gets a wonderful start, fresh air, exercise, chasing the squirrels, the gophers, whatever. But I don't see a lot of people piggybacking that with their own fitness experience. In fact, I'm the outlier because I'm the one jumping up and down off the tables or doing Spider-Man push-ups off the benches. But it seems like a good opportunity to multitask, if you will, where you're getting your dog out and you're doing some exercise, and that becomes your habit, since you have this wonderful habit cemented in right now. Okay, best of luck to you. I would love to engage and hear how things are going for you, and we can always communicate at podcast@bradventures.com. Thanks so much for listening, and good luck getting started your day the right way. Dun, dun, dun. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. Hey, this is going to be one of my favorite commercials because I get to introduce you to the delicious, nutritious, life-changing Brad's Macadamia Masterpiece. This is a mind-blowing nut butter blend that will soon ascend to your number one go-to snack, treat, or accoutrement for anything from dark chocolate, a cucumber celery smear, or mixed in with yogurt, oatmeal cheesecake, or with a spoon right into your mouth, heading south. Let me tell you what I created in my kitchen through whirlwind experimentation and extreme sampling to my VIP product testing crew across the nation, so far with 100% approval. In this beautiful jar, we have macadamia nuts, walnuts, cashews, the rare and precious coconut butter, coconut flakes, cacao nibs, real ancient sea salt, and organic MCT oil. Every single ingredient has been sourced to origin to be the very best we could find from around the world for the absolute highest purity and nutritional value. We run this product in small batches with a boutique family business in the Pacific Northwest, and everything is cold pressed to preserve nutritional value. So if you like eating healthy, it's a dream come true for all those who are keto, primal, paleo, and vegan vegetarian too. I come in peace, my global healthy living friends. Masterpiece, that is. Try some now and it will change your life, I promise. If you don't like it, send it back to me. I'll eat it. You can order Brad's Macadamia Masterpiece on Amazon. Simple. Or if you're bold, daring, and adventurous, buy 3 and get a bottle free at bradventures.com. Buy 6 and we'll send you 8. Christmas shopping early instead of late at bradventures.com. Check it out. Brad's Macadamia Masterpiece. Thank you for listening to the show. I love sharing the experience with you and greatly appreciate your support. Please email podcast@bradventures.com with feedback, suggestions, and questions for the Q&A shows. Subscribe to our email list at bradkearns.com for a weekly blast about the published episodes and a wonderful bi-monthly newsletter edition with informative articles and practical tips for all aspects of healthy living. You can also download several awesome free ebooks when you subscribe to the email list. And if you could go to the trouble to leave a 5 or 5-star review with Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to the shows, that would be super incredibly awesome. It helps raise the profile of the B-Rad podcast and attract new listeners. And did you know that you can share a show with a friend or loved one by just hitting a few buttons in your player and firing off a text message? My awesome podcast player called Overcast allows you to actually record a soundbite excerpt from the episode you're listening to and fire it off with a quick text message. Thank you so much for spreading the word. And remember, be rad.